Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is 46 years old, and he shares his story about events that happened or started happening about 23 years ago when he was about 23 years old. And you're going to see in this story, guys, how he, unfortunately, like many of you, rushed into a relationship with a gal that definitely had lots of red flags and married her. And to no surprise, the marriage was awful. In fact, at some point he describes her as a she-devil and makes a lot of mistakes that I tell you not to do. But ultimately, you will see this guy has the last laugh. And I do mean the last laugh. And when events occur that you will see he has his last laugh, I'll be laughing too. Because I obviously read this when I was having lunch today. And it goes to show you guys in this story, amongst the many mistakes he makes, you can learn from your mistakes. You can start over. You can get out of a bad marriage and start over and have a happy life. And that's what this guy does here. So for all you guys out there, maybe you're in a bad marriage right now, a bad relationship, but think this is as good as it's going to get, or I can't get out of it, yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. You can start over. It will be tough. You'll go through hell initially, but you will be able to move on. Men have the strength in them, whether you realize it or not. It's amazing what we're capable of and the strength we have down deep. You just have to believe in yourself and continue on even when it seems hopeless. And you're going to see here in the story, that's exactly what happens here. It says, Dear SSM, I just want to start off by saying thank you for all your content. My former young man self could have used it, and it could have saved me a whole lot of heartache. I got drugged through the dirt, but I have to say, I got R-pilled and dusted myself off quite nicely, I think. A little bit about myself. I am a 1977 model like yourself, and I was raised in the southern U.S. Also, for the story, let's just call me James. Growing up, I had my mother and father, fortunately. They were both great people and instilled moral values into me that I think a lot of this new generation could use. Ain't that the truth? My father worked in the maritime industry and would be gone away from home for about a month or more at a time. Then he would be home for a month. My mother was a homemaker and took care of us kids. Like I said, my father was a great man that provided a good life for his family, but never educated me on women. I have an older brother that is several years my senior, so by the time I had hit adolescence, he was getting married and having kids himself. In other words, you had to figure it all out for yourself. And it didn't go too well. The story I'm about to tell you is pretty long, and I'm sending to you exclusively as I don't have a Reddit account anyway, and I enjoy your channel as a subscriber. The story starts in about the year 2000. I started dating this gal, we will call her Jessica. Jessica was a licensed practical nurse, and Jessica was older than me by 4 years. Smack! Now I know Jessica's the code name, but still Jessica, that's a whole red flag in itself. Every girl I've known named Jessica is nuts. My whole life, even starting off in the second grade when I knew Jessica who sat next to me in class, she was nuts. But putting the Jessica craziness aside, nurse, need I say more? How many stories have I done? Says, yes, I know, smack, smack, smack. I hope your hand doesn't fall off before the end of this story from all the smacks I get. And yes, the red flags just kept on coming. I was introduced to her through a friend of mine's girlfriend, another nurse, who had worked with Jessica. We had went on a double date and seemed to hit it off very well. Prior to meeting her, I had a few short-term relationships and a few hookups. But this was my first long-term relationship. It wasn't long at all before the SCX began, and I had put her on a pedestal. Smack! Terrible idea, as you are well aware. So when he met her, sounds like he was probably, give or take, 23, 24 years old. I still lived at home with my parents and had a job with the state government in a penal facility. It wasn't the best paying job, but it had decent benefits, and I didn't have any real bills at the time. Okay, you get experience, and you can save up some money living at home. Fair enough. She was going to school to become a registered nurse and was getting close to being finished. Not long after we got together, she began complaining about being short on funds and possibly having to quit or pause pursuing her degree. Let me guess, but if she could borrow money from you, then the problem would be solved. Or if you moved in with her and she would have to spend as much money on rent and all that, problem solved. I asked her if she couldn't simply get another loan or ask her father for the money. She told me her father wouldn't give her the money and she couldn't take any more loans because her credit sucked. Another red flag. When people's credit suck, usually means they're very irresponsible and bad with money. Sure, there are exceptions. Somebody gets into big trouble and they have no choice to put medical expenses on credit cards or whatever. But by and large, if people's credit is terrible, it's because they've made a lot of bad decisions and don't pay their bills on time and live beyond their means and all that. So, stupid me, I loaned her the money to finish out the semester, which equaled about $2,500, which, you guessed it, I would never see again. Smack! Never loan her money, guys. You're asking for trouble. You're never going to get that back. But in a way, our man here will get something back down the road. Little clue there. Speaking of her family, another red flag that was missed. Her father was an alcoholic, and her mother was batshit crazy. Every time I went to visit them with Jessica, her mother was screaming at or arguing with her father about something, and he was usually drunk. She had a sister and 3 brothers. All of them put together wouldn't amount to 50 cents. So I say all the time, gentlemen, you relationship guys, you really want to see what the girl's family is like that you're dating or getting serious about. Because if they got a great thing going, they're all very friendly and outgoing and loving. She has a good relationship with mom and dad and brothers and all that. Okay, that's a good sign. That could be your relationship, your family one day if that's, On the other hand, if there's never-ending drama and fighting and screaming and you get the point, that's bad. Run. Is it possible that you could have a gal that grew up in that and that's her family and she can't stand them, doesn't want to be like them? Sure. But no matter what, that's still going to be something you're going to be dealing with if you marry her and have children with. That could be the grandparents of your kid, aunt and uncles of your kids, and so that's an issue. So you really have to understand this. I know I'm going on here, and I say this often, but this is a teaching channel as well as entertainment. Oh, and by the way, again, don't forget about her credit sucking and her being bad with money. Very bad idea to have as a girlfriend material. And like Jessica, none of them were worth crap with money. I should have already ran by this point, I know, but stupid me. About another year went by and she was dropping hints on getting engaged. By this point, I was second-guessing myself, but she had threatened to break up with me, so I caved and I proposed. Smack, smack, smack. You don't ever do that, guys, unless it's something you truly want. So what? She breaks up with you. Big fucking deal. You can find somebody else, but he obviously didn't have a whole lot of experience. Didn't think probably too highly of himself as he does now. And he caved. And guess what? When men cave and go back on what they want, women lose respect for them. And when women lose respect for a guy, that's when more and more BS happens. It's as predictable as can be, guys. At this time, looking back, she was getting close to the big 3-0. There's a surprise. I could tell my parents really didn't care for her, but they never really said much about it. Well, you know what? They should have. They owed it to you to do that. She never came around my family much either, even after my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. My mother passed away in the fall of 2002. Jessica had come to see my mom before she passed away, and I asked her what my mother said to her as I wasn't there for the conversation. Jessica told me that my mother had asked her to promise her that she would always be there for me and to take care of her son. Jessica told me she had told her that she would. And boy, did she. By the end of our marriage, she would try to take care of me all right. We were married in November of 2002, the biggest mistake of my life. As time would tell, I had married a true she-devil. The next few years, by and all, seemed well. I bought some acreage, built a home, and had gotten promoted at my job. We had planned to have kids, but she was diagnosed with a disease of the reproductive system that made her sterile. Well, when she was probably doing all the things I can imagine she was doing, no wonder her system couldn't produce any kids. Maybe that was the universe's way of saying this chick should never breed. I thought this was a curse, but later realized this was a blessing from God. In 2008, my father too was diagnosed with terminal cancer and passed away rather quickly. Holy crap, man, I'm sorry to hear that. All when you were under 30 years old or around 30. She wasn't much help there either. It also didn't help that she had remarried. He had remarried to a total BIT who made a pure hell unsettling my father's estate. That's a story for another time. Time went on, and Jessica's health seemed to fade a bit. She developed a condition that made her short of breath, and she sometimes had to take a fast-action steroid to open her airway. Well, when she swallowed enough of Chad and Tyrone's love juice, I can see why she has a hard time breathing in there. In 2010, I got a break. I was promoted to a state police agency that I've been wanting this opportunity for a while. I headed off to the police academy. It was pure hell and a lot of paramilitary training, and it was intense. I made it halfway through when I received a bomb. Our assignments came through, and the one I was issued was going to require me to move. Between Jessica's health and knowing I couldn't afford rent and my home mortgage, I resigned. I went back to my old job feeling defeated. That sucks, man. But you know what? It's never over till it's over. Things with Jessica went south from there. Jessica, by this point, was an RN, working as an ER nurse, working the night shift. I know she started coming home from work later. When I asked why this was, she simply told me it was due to the day shift being shorthanded, and she was helping out. She had a coworker she was close with that she would talk to on the phone with. I got to notice while overhearing the conversations that she would often mention a certain guy that was the EMT ambulance driver that we will call Steven. Well, she's talking about other dudes. That's a big red flag. I did approach her and ask if she was doing this guy she mentioned so much, but of course it was denied. Like she's going to tell you. Shortly thereafter, she would get short with me in conversations and pick fights. When women deliberately pick fights, something's going on. Now, all women like drama. And either they get it through just watching those dumbass reality shows and hearing the gossip from their friends, or they like to be right in the thick of it. And the ones who want to be in the thick of it typically create drama themselves, start fights, or they pick fights when they're trying to get the relationship to crumble because they have another guy lined up. She also quit helping with the bills. I had to make a change. I took another job that paid more money but required me to be gone from home and travel for extended periods. Smack! No. Why should you have to work more or work harder when she makes plenty of money? She's a registered nurse after all. And she can fucking pay for it. That's when you had to lay down the law, my man. But clearly your relationship was on a downward spiral anyway. When I came home, the house seemed as if it was cold as ice. And no, I'm not talking about the air conditioning. She began picking fights even more, and it seemed as if she wanted to push me to the point of physically harming her, which I wouldn't dare. Keep that in mind, though. Now she's trying to get you to get physical. There could be something beyond this, guys, of crazy. Some serious planning going on. I finally went and saw an attorney. Thank God. I laid the cards on the table, and for my female divorce attorney, I was certain she was screwing around. I also told her I was fixing to leave due to my job. She informed me that during my absence, she would get a private investigator to tail her. She informed me also that, unfortunately, I live in a no-fault divorce state. This is SSM. It wasn't but a hot minute before I had what I needed. She was caught almost immediately with Steven. Shocker. The divorce papers were written up, but Jessica had already devised a plan of her own. The same day Jessica was to be served with her papers on S-word immoral grounds, I was served divorce papers for physical doing bad things with a restraining order. Holy shit. Now we know what was behind her picking fights and trying to get you to do a physical altercation, if you will. All planned out. She and her lawyer had went in front of a judge proclaiming that I did bad things to her. I gotta watch what I say, guys, on YouTube. He says, I remember when I told you she would prod me to try to harm her. It didn't work. But what she had done was crashed her car the winter before and had her crony at work take pictures of the bruises from the accident. She aimed to play the judge and take me to the cleaners. That is, until my lawyer personally served her EMT lover personally to appear in divorce court. Jessica at this point didn't know that I had the goods on her. I was told she went to her lawyer's office crying and confessing to what she had done. Also during this, due to the restraining order, I was forced to leave my home and couldn't go back home till the divorce was settled. What a bunch of bullshit. You gotta leave your own house, and guess who she's gonna move in? She would use this against me. Get this, SSM, not only a week after I got served, she moved him into my house. And no, it wasn't Steven, but another guy I didn't know about we will call Brent. Of course there's more than one guy. My lawyer told me that there wasn't anything that could be done at this point due to the restraining order being active. I sent word to this clown that I didn't care if he and my soon-to-be ex got it on in the streets, but stay away from my tools and my farm equipment. He didn't do as instructed. Keep this in mind. Never mess with a man's car, his house, and definitely his tools. A couple months go by and we proceed with the mediation. On this day, the mediator, a neutral lawyer among the parties, approached myself and my lawyer with proposals from my soon-to-be ex. SSM, you're not going to believe what option A was presented. Forget about all this. Come home and reconcile. You got to be kidding me. My jaw dropped. I told the mediator it would be a cold day in hell before I went back to her. Besides, how many dudes would I have to kick out of my bed in order to get some sleep if I went back there? The mediator cocked a grin and proceeded to go back to the other room where she and the lawyer were. After some bickering back and forth, I ended up getting a better deal than I had anticipated. Never accept the first offer in a negotiation, guys. She somehow had conned her father into paying me a substantial amount of money and dropped the restraining order to avoid dragging her name through the mud as a 304, which everybody knew she was anyhow. Daddy! She kept the house and equipment, and I left with a wad of cash. The divorce was finalized, and I was finally free. I had a couple of hookups later on, but wasn't looking for anything. A little later on, I met someone, we will call her Amelia. He says, I did finally know what to avoid as far as red flags, but this one checked all the right boxes. She was beautiful, kind, considerate, non-manipulative, and we had so much in common. I tried to find red flags, but no luck. By the way, she's younger. Well, good, you got that right. You got a lot of things right here. But still, you always keep your eye open for the red flags. Even if they check everything off the check boxes, you always keep your eyes open, guys. You have to. It is what it is. And you always check them, and you don't put them on the pedestal, and you don't treat them like you're the fucking queen. If they're great to you, you're great back, but there's a balance. Also, her family is sane. Like you suggest, our first interaction was at a coffee shop over a simple cup of coffee. Good. Keep the first dates cheap. Our relationship blossomed from there. We will pause for that for a moment. Back to Jessica. She wasn't done yet. I was told that she had gotten engaged to Brent shortly after a divorce. She had also attempted to wreck my relationship with all sorts of lies and such via Facebook Messenger to Amelia. She went as far as to telling Amelia that I was abusive and that I might have hepatitis C due to her previously being exposed to a dirty needle pricking her at work accidentally. Amazing. You're moving on. She's married, but you know what? Hell hath no fury. Not that you did anything. And she has to try to screw up your... This is why success is the best revenge. Living a best life is revenge, because the people are miserable. Makes them crazy. I'd already taken an STD test before all this happened and was negative across the board, thank God. I instructed Amelia to take a test for reassurance and to confirm Jessica as a liar. I also shared my results with Amelia to put her mind at ease, and life went on. Later in the spring of the next year, my sister-in-law started calling me. Or you mean your ex-sister-in-law. I was busy putting parts on my new truck and I bought and didn't answer. She just kept calling, and this was unlike her, so I sensed something was wrong. I answered the phone and she asked if I was sitting down. I told her no, but go ahead with what she had to say. She told me, Jessica is dead. Oh darn. Such a wonderful gem, a gift from God, gone from this world. Now she's the devil's problem. He says, SSM, maybe I should have felt some sadness, but I didn't. Dude, if someone is that awful to you, why would you feel sad? Come on here. All I could think was karma had taken its toll. After being idled a bit, I remembered something. I still had life insurance on her. Hey! Later on, I found out her cause of death. A blood clot had formed on her hip due to a fall and had broken away and went to her lung. I bought more property after the divorce and promptly paid it off collecting the money. Well, the first thing I thought when you said that you had life insurance on her, oh shit, they're going to be investigating you, man. But if it obviously happened the way you described it, then you're fine. How about that? Severance for all the years you're with her. Wonderful. As for Brent, the grieving fiancé, I was told he was caught in her house a few days after her death with another woman by her father. I was told he ran out by gunpoint with his new mistress in tow. Later, I ran to Brent myself when he was on a drunken stupor. Yeah, Brent didn't get the life insurance. Brent didn't get probably a whole lot. He came up to me and said, "I heard you've been talking shit about me." And I replied that yes, I stated that you are a piece of crap on several occasions, along with my ex-wife. I also told you to stay off my equipment. Brent proceeded to take a swing and miss. I then put him in a headlock and proceeded to knock the hell out of him, swelling his eyes shut after a brief period. I was told that he wore sunglasses for quite some time after that. That was the end of that. Yeah, these big talkers always talk tough, but they can't fight to save their lives. And you were in law enforcement, for God's sakes. You worked in prisons. Come on here. Back to Amelia. SSM, we dated for several years. I moved in with her for the test run before marriage. I also regained my job with the state law enforcement agency that I spoke of before, and I'm now doing well with that. They gave me a second chance, and I'm grateful. The academy was hell once again, but it was well worth it. I went back to college and got my degree. Another thing I did before getting married was to inform her that I would require a prenup. Good for you, man. I told her that I had lost a lot during my first marriage and would not lose it again. I also stated that I wanted nothing from her and that if she loved me, she would sign beforehand. She signed without hesitation. Good girl. We got married in 2018. I now have 2 handsome twin sons and a better home and family than I ever dreamed of. He says, SSM, I started not to write this story, but I decided if I could help just one person to avoid any of the mistakes, it was all worth it. Also, I didn't marry another nurse. P.S. Happy birthday to you, sir, and Merry Christmas to all. Well, Merry Christmas, and I'm happy to say Merry Christmas, and anybody gets offended, fuck off. But, and thank you for the happy birthday. I got a few more weeks to go before 46, where I'll still be in the mid-40s, but the next year will be 47, I'll be in the upper 40s. Holy fuck. 4 years to 50. But anyhow, guys, lots of lessons in that story, but I don't need to go through all of you. Watch me all the time. You know what they are. I don't feel like going into the lessons here. You all know. But anyhow, bro, good job. I'm glad your marriage number 2 is going well, and she was a great girl, and you got 2 young sons. And unlike you can raise your sons, your twin sons, which is pretty cool, by the way. You can raise them with all this knowledge. So by the time they're teenagers and they start, being attracted to girls and dating girls and all that, they're going to be well aware of reality. So that's awesome. And I wish you the best in your marriage. I'm glad you have a good thing going with her. But keep watching this channel and other channels. Keep yourself sharp. Don't start slipping, because you start slipping, problems will arise with your wife. I guarantee it. But anyhow, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And also, guys, you got a great story you want to share, definitely email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.